Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Chez, Lanoix. Welcome to Richard's Kitchen. Had a lot of comments about these videos, and one of the one common theme has been, I don't have the time. Like, how do I, you know, excuse me, we're in lockdown. If you don't have time now, you're never going to have time. And this is about love. This is about a love of sharing. It's about being a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is one who dedicates their lives to the well-being of others, to the happiness of others, sharing. And the goal of these videos is to get you started with some recipes, so that way when we're out of this, we can invite friends to our home. Stop going to restaurants, stop ordering. You're pouring money down the drain, and you're putting garbage into your mouth most of the time, unless if you're going to really high-end restaurants. Begin to think of your body as a temple of the Lord, Shiva, Buddha, Jesucristo, whoever you pray to. But your body is a temple, and you have to really worship your body. In other words, take care of it. And that begins with knowing what you're putting into your mouth, and sharing that with others. So here's a little bit of advice. I only know about 15 recipes. And that's my repertoire. And the thing is, you do that again and again, and you learn to improvise, and so that those 15 dishes become easy. So right now, why don't we begin with one? Pick any one, and it doesn't matter which one. Do that on a Monday, let's say. So you're cooking on Monday. Every Monday you cook that. Okay, so now you have to order 2 other times during the week. But you have 1 day a week. Remember, you have to also cook smart. So whenever I cook, I always make enough for 2 days. So that one meal is going to be good for you for, let's say, Monday or Wednesday, or however you decide to do it. And then the next week, week 2, you have something, you're done for Monday. Maybe add another dish. So second week now, you have 4 days covered, and you have 2 dishes. Week 3, you're just adding 1 dish. And by the way, you're making week 1 and 2, you're making those same dishes. So you're developing proficiency. It's become easy now. You don't have to look at a menu. You're just doing it. And you keep on doing that. And before you know it, you have 14 dishes that cover you ad nauseum. And then now you just need to add 1 dish every other week. But that's, however you decide to do it, it's fine. But the thing is to do it. We have time. Enjoy. So today we're going to do something special, because today is my lovely daughter Paloma's 18th birthday. Can you imagine spending your 18th birthday in lockdown? So we're going to try to make this special for her. And we're going to make a special dish called beef Wellington. Doesn't that sound fancy? So because it's fancy, and because it's my daughter's birthday, I thought I'd dress up for the occasion. And we're going to make a beef Wellington. By the way, none of these are my dishes. They're all stolen, borrowed. Here's another bit of advice for you. Take this time and learn something. I purchased the all access pass to Masterclass, right? $75, and you have access to, I think they're up to like 80 masters who share their art with you. I'm a writer, amongst many other things. And so I've listened to all the things that the famous writers, Malcolm Gladwell, I don't even remember the name, Soren, Margaret Atwood. And I've learned so much. And I just started looking at the chefs, so I'm just right now listening to, oh my God, I'm just blank, his name will come to me. It's not Ramsay, Gordon Ramsay. He's amazing. I got this dish from Gordon Ramsay. So, it's going to come together, but one of the things that we have to do to prepare the dish is that we have to make savory crepes. I have a few here, but I thought I'd make one for you. Now, one of my other videos, I showed you how to make crepes. This is similar to a crepe, except that it's savory. And what makes it savory? In addition to 1 cup of homemade almond milk, 1 cup of all-purpose flour. To that, I added a pinch of salt. I added about, by the way, this is Gordon Ramsay, a teaspoon of thyme flowers and a teaspoon of chives, right? So that makes it, you don't want it too thick. Now, the difference is that in this case, we don't want to fully cook them. And we'll get to why in a second. Right? So we're going to put that, this is nice and hot. And the trick is to swirl it around. Maybe a little bit more. There's obviously an art to this, which I obviously have not yet mastered. But I'm having a hell of a lot of fun, and that's what counts. So we're gonna make this crepe. We're gonna set this aside, and then we're gonna go on to making the meat. So, in general, when I do these things, whatever comes to mind, whatever like past my doorstep along the way, hey, it's my little girl. Happy birthday!
Thank you. And there's coming out.
But, you know, I got some pretty interesting comments when I started talking about spiritual partnerships, because I mentioned the fact, again, we don't want to full this cook. We just want to let it set well enough so I can flip it. Because now that we are in this lockdown, you know, partners are face to face. Apparently, a lot of divorces, a lot of issues. So, I provided as an option to explore oneself through your spiritual partner. And I don't want to go through that whole thing again, but again, we're just doing this enough to cook, and I think that's it. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. Oh, yes. Okay. Now, this recipe calls for a wrought iron pan, which unfortunately I don't have, so I'm going to use what I have. We're going to let that get hot. We're not big eaters in this house, but again, this is a special day, so we have a wonderful piece of center cut tenderloin from Citarella. So I had quite a few comments about the spiritual partnerships thing, and you know, I thought I'd continue with that idea of partnerships. And for me, when you think about partnerships, I think about love. When I think about food, I think about love. And when I think about food and I think about love, I don't know about you, but I think about sex. Don't you? My lovely wife is saying yes. So, I mean, if you're in a relationship and you're not having sex, well, it's not a relationship. I mean, that's like, of course you can have a relationship without sex, but for me, for us mere mortals, it's a means of communing. Lots of salt and pepper, and some. Gordon Ramsay apparently doesn't know about cayenne pepper. He doesn't know what he's missing. I know he has 3 stars and all that, but you gotta mash that salt in. Sex it's life, it's air. It's a connection. I'm going to read you guys a poem. I wrote a series of poems on reflections on the nature of sex and love at the end, but it's a means of looking in. It's mirrors. It's portals. Portals that allow you to go inside yourself and find the divine. It's not just about the in and out. It's a big mistake that people make, thinking that sex is about the in and out. That's just the key to get in the door. So I thought I could talk about sex, and as I was thinking about this is, I thought about my youth. When did I start thinking about sex? Notice that piece. Check that off. We'll use that for something else later. I think one of the first times it really became a thing for me was I read a lot when I was a kid, and I was, probably was around 16, and I started reading Arthur Rubinstein, who happens to have been one of the greatest living classical pianists, and still considered today, long after his death, he's considered, see how massaging this? He's still considered the greatest interpreter of Frédéric Chopin. So this man, and a lot of people write autobiographies. He wrote a 2-volume autobiography. Now that's balls. That says something. You actually find 2 volumes to write about yourself. Most people have a hard time filling up 1 volume that's interesting. But for a 16-year-old little boy, this book was fascinating because I thought he was going to talk about music. I was just starting to get interested in, I was always interested in playing piano, but I wanted to read about him. And 2 volumes, 10% of it was about music, the rest was about sex, his sexual exploits. 2 volumes about this man's sexual exploits, and I thought it was fascinating, for a 16-year-old mind. But one of the things that he talked, so cooking meat, you want to use grapeseed oil, right? Chicken and fish, you can use olive, but you want to use grapeseed oil because it has a higher boiling point. Well, I don't know boiling point, but it doesn't burn. What we want to do is we're going to sear this sirloin just to lock in the flavor and the seasoning that I just put on. And there are a couple of takeaways, and I'm 16, I'm going to be 59 in July, and this stuck with me. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave began with just him talking about the lost art of prostitution. He frequented a lot of prostitutions, which was apparently a thing back then. Right now it's not considered cool, but it was, everybody did it, I guess. Let's see if this is hot enough. Yes. What we're going to do is we're going to sear it, maybe like a minute on each side. And he talked about the lost art of prostitution. What does that mean, the art of prostitution? He said that a lot of people make the mistake of believing that you go to a prostitute for sex. Well, that's one of the things that happens, but a true master, what he called a true prostitute, a master, a maîtresse, was somebody who showed you love, who made you feel special, who made that old man feel like a Mac Daddy, the gigolo who made the woman feel like she's still, she may be 60 years old, but she makes her feel like she's 20 again. That's the art of prostitution, is to make someone feel so over the top special, and we have certainly lost that, right? We've reduced sex to the in and out, which misses the whole point. That's okay, right? It's okay. But there's so much more. So he talked about going to a prostitute and these women who created fantasies for him, made him feel like a man, like the most virile, strong, handsome. That may sound like bullshit to you, but it's not. It's so important to make your partner feel like they're so special. And so, my first bit of advice to you is learn to be a hoe, right? Be a hoe, which means make your partner feel relevant, special, macho, sexy, beautiful, like they're the most beautiful. Come on, you remember when this all started, right? When you just first started, like the first time you were together, like every word that your partner said was just like, wow. What happened to that? Well, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that, going back to that, where you're making that person with your words, with your touch, with the things that you're doing, make them feel like they're the most special person in the world. So that's the first tip, right? The second tip that I learned came from a very special woman. I must have been about 19 years old. She was in her late 40s, I think. I'm just pouring the sauce over here. And I'm gonna let that sit for a while, right? While that's sitting, I'm gonna put this pan over here. And this woman seduced me and went on to teach me so many things about life and love I could never repay her for. Pause. So now we're gonna take these crepes, right? And now the thing is, we're supposed to cut them into nice squares. This is what I mean by taking liberties, right? This is a huge piece of meat that I have here. And we're supposed to like fit it here, so something like this. And we need to wrap the whole thing. And when Gordon Ramsay did, he had a perfect piece of meat with a perfect slice of this, and it just worked out perfectly. Well, I'm not that perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. But we're gonna just do like this. Okay? Next thing we're gonna do, while that is still nice and hot, let's make believe we have a basting brush, right? We're supposed to baste this. I don't have that, so we're gonna get dirty. My hands are clean, right? And we're just gonna, while it's still hot, because the heat, according to Gordon Ramsay, allows it to suck in that mustard. So we were talking about, so then we were moving on to this woman, and she taught me a couple of things that have stuck with me to this day, which are really important. One of them was the power of words. She didn't frame it that way. She didn't say, I'm going to tell you about the power of words. What she told me was, you haven't fucked the woman's body until you fucked her mind. Now that's some deep shit, right? I was too young to understand it then, but yeah, you know, words mean something. We're human beings. Don't kid yourself, right? You love it when somebody tells you, wow, you're really beautiful today. Did you shave? Wow, that's a new look. Love your hair. Boy, your biceps seems to be getting a little bit bigger there. You working out, big boy. You know, silly little things like that, right? And people, you know, or I love you. I really love you. Now, I remember talking about this at a dinner once and being told, come on, we've been married for whatever, you know, she knows I love her, or he knows I love her. What do I have to say it for? I mean, come on. My answer to that is, are you out of your fucking mind? That's probably why the divorce rate, I'm gonna wash my hands now. This is why the divorce rate is probably as high as it is, because we don't keep that fire going. And how difficult is it to say, God, I love you? Now, especially now when we're stuck in the house together, why not? It's like, I love you. Wow. Are those earrings new? And she's gonna say, no, they're not new. I've had them for like 10 years. It takes effort. Yes, in the beginning it's gonna seem silly, but you know it wasn't silly in the beginning because you were doing it in the beginning and you both loved it. And by the way, this is not, I want to get into men, women. It's both of you need to do it. You know, it's in the beginning, did you like just dress up in a boring way when you were going to meet your partner? No. Every time you went to see them, you got all dressed up and you look beautiful. Well, we're stuck in the house now. Why don't you? And I heard somebody, there was a big, like, viral thing going on. I'm not really much on, what do you call it? Social media. But somebody told me that there was this all to do because somebody was saying that women should be, dressed up in the house and look nice. That's true, but that's only half true. The man should also. You have to look good for each other. You have to. It's a constant seduction. Why not? Like, make each other feel special. In Burning Man, the first time I went many, many years ago, everybody's all dressed up, and I was like, I didn't get it at first. Oh, I was supposed to do this on the plastic. Hold on. There's a reason why I have this plastic here, and I'm going to show you. See, I'm not embarrassed to make mistakes. I'm really not. I'm having a good time, and so we're going to wrap this up like this. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to wrap it tight. Oh! Okay, let's back up. You know that saying, right, with COVID, and like, the devil comes to a healthcare professional. Okay, let's start all over again. On top of this, we're going to layer some prosciutto. All right, we're going to go bam. Right, so it comes up to this doctor, and healthcare workers are completely overwhelmed right now, dejected morally, you hear about your colleagues dying, and the devil comes up to him and says, you ain't got it, you don't have the strength, you're not going to make it. And the doctor looks up and whispers, back up 6 feet, motherfucker. Social distancing. Anyway, so we're going to back up. I'm going to do this now. So, I was saying, we need to embrace this idea of making... Oh, sorry, I was talking about Burning Man. So I didn't get it at first. Like, everybody's wearing costumes 7 days a week. And I learned later that it was really... The reason you do that is not for yourself, your ego. You're doing that because you're creating an experience for the person who's coming to you, who's passing you, seeing all these lights and glitter, and you're creating an experience for them. And in the same way, okay, hold that thought. I've done that. Next step, I've made champignon Bruxelles, which is a fancy way of saying I took some portobello mushrooms in some olive oil. I chopped it up really finely. I added some delicious seasoning. And then I'm gonna spread this out on top of here. That's my Bruxelles. This is my first time making this, by the way, so probably not going to be as smooth as when Gordon Ramsay does it. But I'm sure it is going to taste amazing. Okay, so now I've done that, right? How's that? It looks amazing already. I can't wait to bite into this. So we're creating experiences. We're creating experiences for the world. And in this case, the most important part of your world is your partner and your children. So now we're going to put this delicious piece of meat on top of here. And we're going to wrap it tight. Tight, 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 tight. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, baby. Hands are a little slippery. Yeah, that's tight. Okay? So now Gordon Ramsay says you take the ends and everything and you wrap it up like that, like that. Yeah. And we make experiences for others in very simple ways, by saying I love you, by compliments. Words are powerful. Okay. So now we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to let it set in the fridge for 20 minutes. It's supposed to keep the tightness going. And while that's happening, we're going to spread our puff pastry dough, for which I do need, actually I'm not going to use this, I'm just going to use one second, I'm just going to run to get some flour. Spread some flour on here. By the way, I don't make pastries, I don't know anything. I know a couple of amazing desserts. Like I said, I have a repertoire of just a few things that over the years I've just done so many times that I've mastered. And if I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so now, prosciutto di Parma. So now, I'm going to take this. I'm going to very gently open it. So what experiences have you created for your partner lately? You know, as I said, words are really, really important. You notice I haven't even started talking about sex yet, but I'm talking about sex. Next thing that this woman taught me, you know, well, this is all sticky. This is not supposed to happen like this. This is supposed to just open up so nicely. Okay, so let's just do one piece. The next thing she taught me was patience, right? This is a problem that often men have, like we just want to jump into things. Patience is such an important thing. A true master in the art of lovemaking, for a true master. Foreplay began yesterday. You're planning for sex a week from now, and that's done with beautiful words, soft kisses, flowers. You may think that's all ridiculous. Well, your partner probably thinks you're ridiculous also, because you're not making them happy. You're just like, and it's being highlighted. Paloma! It's just they're just tolerating you until that divorce comes, which is, now that you're stuck in the house together, is probably going to come a lot faster than you think. So listen to these words carefully. I have to open the door. Hello, I need help here, okay? Thank you. Okay, this was a bit of a disaster. I have holes in my dough. It's okay. Shush. So, talking about patience, we're talking about foreplay. And these things that we don't think about because we have these silly notions about sex being about the in and out or something about genitals somehow. It's much deeper than that, you know? It's about energy. It's about moving energy. It's about moving emotions in your partner. Oh, this was supposed to just like layer off. I'm gonna have to reconstruct this somehow. So, patience. Patience with my dough. Let's grab a little bit more of this. A roller somewhere around here. Hi, Mommy.
Hey.
I can't talk right now, okay?
I know.
Pause that for 1 second. I found my roller. So, what I'm suggesting that you do is to go back to the beginning. Let's do things differently. This is all about doing things differently right now. That means doing things differently means focusing on the touch. And again, this is not just for men, right? Again, I'm speaking from the perspective of a man. I'm sure women would have something the opposite to say, but very often women just like lay there and expect us to serve them, right? And in my younger days, that was the price of doing business, right? That's, if I wanted to get what I wanted, I had to serve. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about you are in a loving relationship with somebody, and it has to be mutual. You have to be a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva, again, is someone who dedicates their lives to make in this case, your partner happy. Both of you should be doing that. So that means both of you have to participate. Another friend of mine, this was another important lesson, which at that time I didn't recognize as a lesson at all, but it was extremely important, which is sometimes sex is for me, sometimes it's for you, and sometimes it's for us. And that means everybody's serving everybody, right? 2 flashlights pointing at each other. Which light? Who's giving? Who's taking? There's only light. So let's put sex aside. Let's think about the touch. Spending an hour just touching, right? Think of this as a game, right? It's a game, and you get points when you find those secret little spots, and then they're all over our bodies, right? They're all over our bodies, but you have to find them, and the tricky thing is that they move around. One day they're here, next day they're here. So be patient, play, look for them. Just cuddle. You know, it's going back to discover what it means to touch. You know, it's like people who you spend your life eating sugar. If you eat something without sugar, it's like it doesn't taste like anything. You have to give your palate time to learn how to develop its sensitivity again, to snap, crackle, and pop, you know, to things that before you just ignored, you know. You know, a lot of what I'm saying can be put in the category of tantra, right? Go look up tantra, tantric sex. And it's about looking at each other in the eyes. It's about moving energy. It's about breathing. It's about paying attention, breathing together. It's not about the in and out. That's part of it. Again, I like spirituality and all that, but there's a time when it comes down to the in and out. It's like, you got to be able to do that. But mix it up a little bit. And this is the time for change. You know, when was the last time you asked your partner, how may I serve you today? What can I do to give you an experience? And don't be surprised, in the beginning it'll be the same old shit, but you know, when you get comfortable and then things start opening up, don't be surprised when the requests get a little funky. And that's part of the fun, discovering new ways to be. I have some potatoes and stuff in here. So I think this is spread out nicely. I think I was supposed to do this on plastic again. Yeah, we're gonna get some plastic because we have to roll it again. Again, I don't have to apologize. I mean, this is the first time I'm making this. I'm having a good time. Are you? And we're learning something. So now let's see if I can delicately pick this up. I'm just gonna go like this. I'm gonna lay out some process. We have to do the rolling again. Go like that. Lost a little piece there. So, what do you guys think about what I'm saying so far? I would love to have your comments. At the end of the day, it's about creating fantasies, and life is a fantasy. You know, you're mistaken big time if you think I'm talking about cooking. You think I'm talking about sex? Boo-boo. This is about, it's much deeper than that. It's about finding and opening portals. Now, the idea is that this should remain intact, right? We want it to be. Now, hopefully by the fourth or fifth time that I've done this, I will realize that if I'm gonna put dough on plastic, that I need some flour, right? So don't be a hater. Just roll with me here as I make my beef Wellington. Okay. Yeah, so you know, and sex is such a wonderful way to get to energy, because we're talking about moving energy. And once you realize that as a couple you can do that for each other, shit gets real, you know. It's really, really beautiful. Okay, so now, Mommy, you have to lower your voice, okay? Okay. So now, this was much smaller when Gordon Ramsay did it. I don't even think this thing's gonna go around it. So I think maybe what I should do is cut it in half. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let me do that, because I want this to be pretty. I want it to taste good, but I want it to be pretty. Yeah, let's do it. I think we should do it like this. I think next time what I'll do is to actually have a second piece. Okay, I'm gonna go like that. And wrap it up tight, 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 tight. So far so good, so far so good. Oh yeah. And we're gonna go like that, seal that in. Okay. Now that it's rolled, I'm gonna roll it because this is supposed to be rolled so tight and it's supposed to be kept together. Then we put it back. We put it back in the fridge for 5 minutes, and then we're going to put it in the oven. So while that's happening, I'm going to read you guys a poem that I wrote. It's part of my collection, Reflections on the Nature of Love and Sex. This is called the in and out. The sexual act can be shallow, relegated to the physical. If desired, it also presents the potential to probe. Peruse the physical and metaphysical depths. Disinhibit the facades, which prevent us from seeing beyond each other's eyes. This seemingly superficial act, the in and out, in fact mirrors a profound in and out into the other. This facilitates all further communication. The act serves as a giant on whose shoulders we see further into the other. By the way, that saying, if I see further, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. It's attributed to Newton, Isaac Newton. So I just do a twist on that. So what I'm trying to say is, the sex becomes a trampoline. It becomes a portal through which we can enter other metaphysical realms and learn so much about each other, so much about the other, so much about consciousness. Because once you get into that game, you fall apart, I fall apart. It's just light, it's just consciousness. And that is a beautiful thing. I'm going to be back. I'm going to show you what this dish looks like at the end. And I hope that my daughter loves it. Ciao, belle ragazze. Okay, this has been in the oven now for approximately 20 minutes. This is a beef Wellington. Beef Wellington. I made this to celebrate my daughter Paloma's 18th birthday. Let's see what it looks like. just to finish the thought, what we were talking about before, it's really about bandwidth. We're talking about how many tools. Ooh, look at that juice that's pouring out now. Now, what Gordon Ramsay says, there was no juice in here, and the fact that I'm cutting it now means that all that juice was retained inside. This is the coulo, which he refers to as the chef's cut. I'm not going to serve that. I'm just going to leave that right there. And then I'm going to start cutting pieces for the family. Now my mother tends to like it well done. So I was saying it's about bandwidth. It's about, oh, I'm losing the crust. Look at that. That look amazing.
No. Have you done that?
I forgot everything about the SAT. Like if I took it, I would fail it.
That's right.
Well, I guess the outing could have been a little prettier, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Anyway, the point is, this is about bandwidth. How many tools do you have in your toolbox, right? How much vocabulary do you have? It's about vocabulary building, right? So if you know how to do A, B, and C, you can say X amount of words. If you know A, B, C, D, E, you can say more words. You can apply this to cooking. You can apply this to sex. You can apply this to your spiritual partnerships. Do it today. We're going to enjoy this meal. Ciao.